Hey Reddit, I'm Emily, 29, and I thought I had married a good man. I was wrong. This isn't a story about a bad marriage. It's not about little fights over the dishes or differences in parenting styles. This is about betrayal on the deepest level, and how, in the span of a few months, my world shattered in ways I never could have imagined. Let's start with the night everything changed. I had just put our 6-week-old baby down for the night when my phone buzzed. I was exhausted, running on maybe 3 hours of sleep, wearing a stained t-shirt, and half dead from breastfeeding every 2 hours. I didn't recognize the number, but something told me to check it. It was a text. Unknown number. You don't know me, but I think you need to see this. Attached was a photo. I clicked on it, my heart immediately dropping into my stomach. It was my husband, Jason, sitting at a restaurant, holding hands with another woman, laughing, looking at her like she was the center of his universe, like he had never looked at me. I felt frozen, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. This had to be a mistake. Maybe it was an old photo. Maybe someone was trying to mess with me. Then another text came through. Unknown number. This was taken tonight. I stared at it, my vision going blurry. He was cheating on me while I was home with our newborn baby. I don't even remember standing up. 1 second, I was sitting on the couch, and the next, I was pacing the room, shaking so hard I could barely breathe. My hands moved on their own, typing out a message to Jason. Me, where are you? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then reappeared again. Finally, his reply came. Jason, work ran late. Be home soon. Liar. My whole body went ice cold. I could have confronted him right then. I could have sent him the photo, demanded answers, screamed through the phone. But something inside me whispered, wait. So I did. I didn't reply. I sat there, staring at my sleeping baby, heart racing, waiting for him to come home. When he finally walked through the door, I knew. The smell of perfume that wasn't mine. The way he barely met my eyes. The guilt radiating off him in waves. I wanted to explode. I wanted to rip into him, shove my phone in his face, demand to know who she was and how long this had been going on. But instead, I did something I never thought I'd do. I stayed quiet. Because if Jason was capable of this, I needed to know what else he was capable of. And I had a feeling this wasn't even the worst of it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, my back turned to Jason, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing while my mind raced. My fingers hovered over my phone, rereading the message from the unknown number, staring at the photo of him with her. How long had this been going on? Who was she? And the worst question of all, how far had this gone? I wanted to wake him up, shake him, scream at him, but I didn't. Instead, I played along. Because if he had lied straight to my face after a night out with his mistress, I needed to know what else he was lying about. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I pretended. The next morning, I went about my routine like nothing had happened. I made coffee, fed the baby, kissed Jason on the cheek before he left for work, even though the very touch of him made my stomach churn. And then, I started digging. The first thing I checked was our bank account. Jason and I had shared finances, but I rarely went through the statements. I trusted him. Big mistake. It didn't take long to find the first red flag. Dinner at an expensive steakhouse. A charge from 2 nights ago, when Jason had told me he had been stuck in meetings all night. A hotel transaction. Small but noticeable. A charge under a generic name. Just enough to suggest a short stay. An Uber ride at 1 a.m. Destination? Not home. I gripped my phone, my heart pounding. He had been doing this for a while. And then I noticed something else. A pattern. Certain nights, certain places. Which meant he had a routine. I exhaled sharply, my hands trembling. This wasn't some random affair. This was calculated. I called the number that had sent me the text. It rang twice before it go to voicemail. No name, no identifying message. Just a robotic. The person you're trying to reach is unavailable. But whoever they were, they wanted me to know, which meant there was a chance they'd text again. So I waited. And sure enough, later that night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Are you okay? I hesitated. Then, me, who are you? 3 dots appeared. Then, unknown number. I can't say, but you need to check his car. I froze. What the hell was in his car? Jason was in the shower. The baby was asleep. I grabbed my keys, threw on a jacket, and stepped outside. His car sat in the driveway, looking perfectly normal. But the second I opened the door, I knew something was off. Perfume. A scent that wasn't mine, thick and heavy in the air. The passenger seat was pushed back, way back, like someone much taller than me had been sitting there recently. And then I saw it. A receipt shoved into the side compartment. I pulled it out, my hands shaking. Hotel booking. Paid in cash. The same night, I had been home alone, rocking our newborn to sleep, while Jason had told me he was working late. He was cheating on me while I was home with his child. I sat there, gripping the receipt, my whole body vibrating with rage. How did he do this? And then, just as I was about to get out of the car, I spotted something else. A baby onesie, folded neatly in the back seat. A onesie I had never seen before. My stomach twisted. Why the hell was there baby clothing in his car? And why did I have a horrible feeling that I didn't want to know the answer? I tucked the receipt in my pocket and shut the car door, my heart pounding. I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just cheating. Something much worse was going on, and I was going to find out exactly what. I sat in Jason's car for a long time, gripping the tiny onesie in my hands, my mind racing. The perfume, the receipt, the hotel transactions. I already knew he was cheating. But this was something else. I ran my fingers over the soft fabric, my stomach twisting. Who did this belong to? Why was it in his car? It was too small for our baby. It looked brand new, like it had never been worn. I swallowed hard, my chest tightening. There was only one explanation I could think of, and I hated where my mind was going. I needed answers. Now, I shoved the onesie back where I found it and went inside. Jason was still in the shower, completely oblivious. I could hear the water running as I paced the bedroom, debating my next move. My first instinct was to confront him, to shove the receipt in his face and demand to know what the hell he was doing. But something held me back. If Jason was capable of cheating while I was home with our newborn, if he was hiding something that involved another baby, then I had no idea what else he was capable of. I needed more information. So instead, I waited. Jason came out of the shower like nothing was wrong, towel drying his hair, flashing me a quick smile. "You okay? You look tired." I forced a weak smile back. "Yeah, just a long day." He nodded, already distracted, grabbing his phone from a nightstand and scrolling through it. Texting her, probably. I had to fight the urge to rip it out of his hands. Instead, I kept my expression neutral. "I was thinking of taking the baby out tomorrow," he said casually. "Give you a break." Every muscle in my body went rigid. I turned to face him. "Where?" He shrugged. "Just to the park. Maybe to see my mom." Liar. I knew exactly where he was planning to go. I swallowed, forcing my voice to stay even. "Okay, sounds good." His eyes flicked to me for a second, like he was surprised I hadn't argued. Then he nodded and walked out of the room. I sat on the bed, my hands clenched into fists. I had just agreed to let him take our baby, but this time, I was going to follow him. The next morning, I pretended to sleep in while Jason got the baby ready. I listened from the bedroom as he packed the diaper bag, as he hummed softly while strapping our child into the car seat. I forced myself to stay still, my heart pounding. Finally, the front door shut. I shot out of bed, grabbed my keys, and ran to my car. Jason pulled out of the driveway, completely unaware that I was right behind him. I stayed back, keeping my distance as we weaved through traffic. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. My mind was racing with possibilities. He said he was going to see his mom. That was a lie. Was he meeting her? The woman from the picture? Was he introducing our baby to his mistress? I felt sick. Finally, he pulled into a small parking lot outside a cafe. I watched as he stepped out of the car, adjusting the baby carrier strap to his chest. My breath hitched when I saw her. The woman from the picture. She was already waiting for him, sitting at an outdoor table, waving him over, smiling. My stomach dropped. Jason walked over like this was normal, like they were a happy little family. I felt my whole body go cold. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I didn't need to. I saw the way she reached for my baby's tiny hands, cooing at them. I saw Jason leaning closer, touching her arm like it was second nature. I saw red. I threw my car door open and marched toward them, my pulse pounding in my ears. Jason spotted me first. His face went pale. "Emily." I didn't let him finish. "What the hell is this?" My voice was shaking with rage. The woman's smile immediately disappeared. She looked at Jason, panicked. I turned to him, barely able to breathe. You told me you were going to see your mom. Jason's jaw clenched. Emily, calm down. No. I pointed at the woman. Who the hell is she? The woman opened her mouth, then closed it, eyes darting between Jason and me. And then she said something that made my blood run cold. You said she knew. Everything around me blurred. I felt like I had just stepped into an alternate reality. My chest heaved. Excuse me? She looked at Jason, horrified. You told me she knew. I turned to Jason, demanding answers. Knew what? Jason's face was unreadable, but I could see the panic creeping in. He was caught. He knew it. And then he did the worst thing imaginable. He grabbed our baby and ran. I stood there, frozen, watching as he bolted toward his car, fumbling with the car seat. It took me 1 second to react. I sprinted after him. He threw open the door, trying to shove our child inside, but I grabbed his arm, yanking him backward. You're not taking our baby. My voice came out in a snarl, pure adrenaline rushing through me. Jason shoved me off, his eyes wild. Emily, you don't understand. I slapped him. Hard. His head snapped to the side, and for a split second, he just stood there, stunned. Then I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed my phone and called the cops. Jason's eyes widened in fear. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I had the power. Jason's face twisted when he saw me dialing. Emily, don't, he hissed, reaching for my phone. I yanked my arm away, backing up as I pressed call. 911. What's your emergency? Jason's expression changed. His panic turned to something else, something cold. He took a step toward me, but I lifted my hand. Don't you dare. The dispatcher's voice crackled through the line. Hello. I took a deep breath, locking eyes with Jason as I made my choice. My husband just tried to take my baby without my permission. I think he's trying to leave with them. I need help. Jason froze. The woman, his mistress, jumped up from her seat. Jason, what the hell? She hissed. You told me. I didn't tell you to talk. I snapped, glaring at her. I turned my attention back to the call. We're at the cafe on Maple and 6th. He's putting the baby in the car right now. Jason's jaw clenched. He knew he was screwed. Ma'am, is he being violent? I exhaled sharply. Not yet. Jason whipped around, glaring at me. Emily, hang up the damn phone. I shook my head, gripping my phone tighter. Not a chance. His whole body tensed, like he was trying to calculate his next move. And then, in one last pathetic attempt, he turned to the mistress. Get in the car. Her eyes widened. Jason, get in the car. Like hell I was letting that happen. I stepped in front of the passenger door, blocking her from getting inside. No one is leaving, I snapped. Not until the cops get here. Jason took a threatening step forward. You don't get to do this, Emily. Oh, I shot back. I don't get to stop you from kidnapping our baby. I don't get to hold you accountable for sneaking around and lying to my face. His expression darkened. I was going to tell you. I let out a short, bitter laugh. Yeah? Before or after you introduced our child to your side piece. His mistress turned red. I didn't know she didn't. Shut up. Jason snapped at her, finally losing his patience. I almost laughed. The cracks were showing, and just as I was about to rip into him again, I heard something that made my heart soar. Sirens. Jason heard them too. For the first time since this nightmare started, I saw fear in his eyes. I didn't move, didn't breathe as the police car pulled up. 2 officers stepped out, scanning the scene. One of them locked onto Jason, immediately taking in the way he was positioned, the way I was standing between him and the car. The officer walked up to me. You call? I exhaled. Yes. My husband tried to take our child without my consent. I have full custody. Jason snapped. That's a lie. The cop turned to him. Sir, lower your voice. Jason threw his hands up. She's blowing this out of proportion. I was just taking my kid out for the day. I glared at him. With her. The cop's eyes flicked to the mistress, who immediately looked guilty. She stammered. I didn't know. Jason cut her off. Emily, you're being ridiculous. You can't just call the cops because you're mad. The cop wasn't buying it. He looked at me. You said you have full custody? I nodded. I have the documents at home. Jason laughed bitterly. She's lying. The officer turned back to Jason, his expression cool and unreadable. Sir, I'm going to ask you to step away from the vehicle. Jason's face dropped. Are you serious? The cop's voice was firm. Now, Jason backed up, but I could see it. He was fuming. The second officer turned to me. Ma'am, would you like to press charges? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Jason lost it. This is bullshit. The cop grabbed his arm. Sir, calm down. Jason shoved him. And just like that, they arrested him. His mistress gasped, stepping back. Jason, what the hell? I stood there, watching as they cuffed him right in front of me. Jason thrashed. Emily, you're going to regret this. I tilted my head, completely calm. No, Jason. I met his furious gaze as they shoved him into the police car. I think this is the best decision I've ever made. Jason was screaming at me from the back of the police car. I didn't react. I just stood there, watching as they shut the door in his face, muffling his rage. His mistress stood frozen, looking between me and the officers like she was waiting for someone to tell her what to do. One of the cops turned to me. We'll take him in. If you have custody documents, you should bring them to the station. You'll also need to file an official statement if you want to press charges. I nodded. My hands were still shaking, but my mind was clearer than it had been in weeks. I'll be there. Jason's mistress finally found her voice. I didn't know any of this. I turned to her, my face unreadable. Didn't know what? That he was married? That we had a baby? Or that he was introducing our child to you behind my back? She flinched. I didn't let her finish. You don't matter here, I said, my voice sharp. So go ahead and play the I didn't know card all you want, but you knew enough to lie to me today. She opened her mouth again, then closed it. Because she knew I was right. I turned away. I was done. I walked to my car, opened the door, and carefully lifted my baby from the car seat. They were still sleeping, completely unaware of the chaos that had just unfolded. And that was exactly why I had done this. I drove straight home, my body still vibrating from the adrenaline. I should have been exhausted, but instead, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Relief. I'd been scared of this moment. Scared of what would happen if I finally stood up for myself. But now that it was here, I didn't regret a damn thing. At the station, I filed the paperwork. I brought my custody documents, showed them the proof, made sure there was no way Jason could twist this. When I left, the officer gave me a firm nod. We'll be in touch. If he tries to contact you, let us know immediately. I smiled. Oh, don't worry. I'll be blocking his number the second I walk out of here. And I did. Jason lost it all. The charges stuck. Attempted parental kidnapping, obstruction, resisting arrest. He tried to argue that I was being hysterical, that I had overreacted, but the cops weren't buying it. And when they pulled his phone records, it got even worse. Turns out, I wasn't the only woman he had been sneaking around with. There were texts to multiple women, some before I even got pregnant. He had been cheating for years. I wish I could say I was shocked, but at that point, I just felt free. The court granted me an emergency custody order. Jason wasn't allowed anywhere near our child without supervision. He tried to fight it, of course, but the judge took one look at his arrest record and basically laughed him out of the room. And his mistress? She dumped him. Apparently, she wasn't too thrilled about dating a guy with a criminal record. I don't think Jason ever thought I would leave him. I think he expected me to cry, to beg him to come back, to forgive him like nothing happened. But here's what I learned. The moment you stop making excuses for someone, everything becomes crystal clear. I don't miss him, not even a little. I have full custody of my child. I'm rebuilding my life, step by step. And you know what? I'm happier than I've ever been. Jason, on the other hand, he lost everything. And I don't feel bad at all.